Hi, my name is David Titeu. I'm a mindset and leadership coach and speaker, and I'm about to be on the online prosperity show where I get to speak with Prosper about my story, navigating mental health challenges, addiction, relationships, the workforce, entrepreneurship, and building a business that creates impact in the community. So make sure to tune in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Tarolinga, and today we have a guest who not only champions mental health, but has turned his experience into a force for positive change. Now, David, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Prosper. Very grateful to be on the show, brother. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking behind the scenes, and I already like what you're on about and how you're helping professionals out there to harness their power and create impact. Now, for those that are tuning in right now, thank you so much. Get ready for an engaging and insightful conversation with the award-winning social entrepreneur and mental health advocate, David. And this, I think, promises to be one of the best episodes yet. I think so many people have weaponized the term and the whole concept around mental health. So why not hear it from the expert himself, who promises to help you communicate your story, your ideas, your value proposition with unshakable confidence. Now, wouldn't that be nice? David, I could go on and on, singing your praises and accolades and everything else that comes along with it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually became a mental health advocate.
Gladly, Prosper. So right now I'm channeling my own lived experiences in mental health, entrepreneurship, to really support 9-to-5 professionals who are feeling stuck in their career, who might be lacking in confidence and unsure how to back themselves, right, to rise into a leadership position or perhaps to start a business of their own. And this is a journey that I'm all too familiar with, and I experienced a great deal of my own imposter syndrome and doubts and anxieties all throughout school, university, especially. I think a turning point for me was firstly trying to process my parents' divorce, between that and struggling with an addiction to drugs and alcohol, finding my feet in the workforce and just bouncing around from workplace to workplace without ever feeling like I belong. And then ultimately, I think almost losing my dad to suicide about 5 years ago was a really pivotal moment, which inspired me to use my own story in a way that could hopefully help others and help them feel less alone and heard and understood in their challenges. That really drove me to build LinkMate, which was a social enterprise devoted to proactive emotional support. And we built a social network on an app that provided support to the community, ran workshops with corporates and universities, equipping them with the tools to just have those, sometimes difficult conversations about emotions and feelings in a professional environment. And that whole, I guess, journey of personal development and professional development was a tough one and still is. Now I feel blessed to be in a position to just share what I've learned along the way and help these professionals, my clients and my community, feel heard and like they're not alone in these challenges of stuckness, is what I call it, where they might feel trapped in a job that might look good on paper but isn't fulfilling and rewarding for them and doesn't inspire them or make them feel like they can contribute to something bigger than themselves. So that's the path that I'm on now, and very, yeah, very grateful to share it with you, Prosper, and your listeners as well.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you taking us on that journey because it's not easy, especially if you're talking about lived experience, something that you've been through to have a recount of it. It must have taken a redemptive amount of work in order for you to be there for not only yourself, but for others. Because I've noticed that you do speaking engagements, you also coach, and like you say, you are now the founder of this app. What is it that you did in order for you to have this strength and character you now have?
That is such a good question, Prosper. If I could boil it down to one thing, it would be asking for help. You know, from the deepest hole that I was in when I was struggling with addiction and getting support from friends and psychologists, all the way through to, learning how to make sales in a business, getting support from coaches. I think there's one thing that I've always really valued, and that's being vulnerable, and asking for help, because no one who's ever realized their own dreams or version of success has done so alone. And I think that there may be a perception that you can do everything on your own. And I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of power in asking for help. It brings people together. It inspires. And it's really helped me, develop the confidence to back myself and to feel resourceful and empowered, because I wouldn't have been able to do it alone.
Absolutely. And I absolutely believe if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. And as humans, we are societal beings. There's no way you can really venture beyond that, especially if you go at it by yourself. And most of the times, our family is the first protocol for where we seek that support and where we get that safety net that we seek. But you didn't have that because your parents divorced, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you bring up an important subject, Prosper. So, we were talking before, right, about your inspiring journey, leaving Zimbabwe and in pursuit of a new lifestyle and vision for yourself. And that really resonated with me, because my parents similarly migrated from Romania in the early 90s. And that was a very difficult period of time for them, living in refugee camps. My dad was sleeping on park benches. And when they finally arrived in Australia, they were exposed to so much discrimination and bullying, in the workforce, and it was so destructive. I think it only was made worse by the difficult relationship that they were in, which ultimately led to the divorce. And I'm an only child, so I didn't have any siblings to. It's very isolated in that respect. And there's something that I think is worth touching on, because I don't think it's commonly talked about, which is breaking up with parents, right? And the reason I bring that up is because both my parents have been through a lot of trauma in many ways, and they have each of them haven't accepted the importance of seeking help as much as I have. And as a result of them not getting the support that they need over the course of their journey, it's led to them feeling quite insecure and living by old toxic narratives and stories, which didn't work for me and weren't empowering for me. And along my journey, going against the grain and leaving the workforce to start a business, it was met with a lot of resistance from them. And so the reason I talk about breaking up with parents is because the whole divorce and my relationship with them really transformed to a point where I don't see my parents, not from a perspective of severing ties with them, but really protecting my energy and my mental health. And, I don't think it's talked about because in many ways people might say, but they're blood relatives, you only have one mum, you only have one dad. But would you say that about a partner, perhaps, that is, manipulating you or gaslighting you? You know, you, one would think that you would leave that relationship or at least set a healthy boundary to really honor yourself and protect yourself. So, yeah, to answer your question, it has been a very lonely journey, and anyone on the path of entrepreneurship will attest that the journey is lonely in and of itself. So I think going it without parents, at least physically nearby, has made it very difficult in some ways, but also very empowering in others, because it's forced me to be even more resourceful and really generate the unconditional love and support and encouragement from within, as opposed to really relying on my parents for that.
Fantastic. And good on you for picking yourself up and dusting yourself out of everything else that you were going through, which we're going to get into in a moment, because it's not easy. Because from what I'm seeing, you didn't have that many, strong role models from you to emanate from, because you can't hit a target that you cannot see.
So true. Yeah. And I think in some ways, seeing dad pursue a new life outside of Romania and take a chance on himself, was quite empowering in some ways. So yeah, I think to that end, he was and is a role model for me. Um, but I think I've also been very blessed, and I think for all of us, blessed with technology to be able to connect to so many other role models in the world whom we look up to and who share the same values as us. One of them who comes to mind is Aubrey Marcus, who started Onnit, a supplement company. There are some others as well. Jay Shetty, to name another. And I think, their journeys and the way that they talk about them on podcasts, like, you're facilitating right now, Prosper, is really amazing, because for those who are listening who might not have that really prominent role model in their life, in a family, or in their immediate circle, there's just such a wealth of information and positivity online, which, if you start looking for it, you will find it. And this show is certainly one of those.
I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, people would start thinking we're paying you to hail some towards the online prosperity show. But for those that are watching right now, this is your cue to subscribe to the show, because it's not every day that you get insights like this, and especially lived experiences that you can actually learn from. Because I viscerally believe, in life, we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. So in order for you to live the best life possible, you need to learn everything there is for you to be able to live that life. And once you've figured it out, you want to send the elevator down so that others can also learn from you, so they too can be, do, and have a happier existence. But while you were going through your go-throughs, you took up drugs.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, this was during my time at university. So immediately after hearing the news of my parents' divorce, I was living on campus at university and in a community of very hypersocial students, throwing parties and getting around each other every single day. But I couldn't leave my room. I was so socially anxious, and I really struggled to open up about what I was going through to anyone. And in fact, going through the mental health care system, I was met with a lot of just a lot of barriers along the way, whether it was cost, distance, stigma, or even just feeling heard and understood, whether it was in a psychologist's office where I was just being told what to do as opposed to being listened to, or in a GP's office where I was, completing a clinical questionnaire without feeling like I was acknowledged for my trauma. It was a very challenging experience for me. And I'm grateful now that I have an amazing psychologist who empowers me, who asks really thought-provoking questions and makes me feel safe and comfortable. But back then I didn't, and I think it really dashed my hopes in getting better. And so the next step for me was to turn to drugs and alcohol at that point. And coupled with my, I guess, identity crisis and not knowing which career I belonged in. I bounced around 3, 4, 5 different jobs and didn't feel like I was contributing, didn't feel like I was moving ahead. Like drugs, I guess, were an escape for me and numbed the pain that I was experiencing in a very big way.
That must have been hard because drugs tend to have the addictive sort of nature. How did you then come off the cycle?
Yeah, I would say, going back to what I said before, asking for help really changed the course for me. And talking about my feelings and my emotions with friends whom I trusted, who had been through somewhat similar things as me, and then eventually finding the right support from a psychologist, started giving me a sense of confidence and reassured me of my self-worth. Because back then, I felt like a degenerate. I failed in many ways to get into a job in my field of study, and I felt like that whole failure defined me. So when I spoke to others about it, and I was reminded of, who I truly am, and everything that I've achieved up to that point and how I make people feel, I guess it gave me a new lease on life. It was certainly the seed for launching a company in the mental health space. And I think coupled with asking for help, finding a passion, which was building something that could create impact and could support others, was just such a healthier addiction to have. And I think, for a lot of people right now who might, use drugs or alcohol, everyone's journey is so different. But what I can say from my own experience is that the reason why I was in that state was because I didn't have like a passion or a strong purpose that could guide me and that could really distract me, but in a really positive and empowering way.
And what's life like now?
Life now is magical. I'm very grateful for the journey that I've been on. I get to meet with and support people who have been exactly where I have. So like we were talking about before, prosper, sending the elevator back down and really being able to empower those, it is just so inspiring. I get to have just an amazing relationship, with my partner and with my friends, and meet so many incredible people on the path as well, like yourself, who are devoted to giving back and to creating a venture, a vessel, a vehicle for impact, and I love that, and it's very grateful for it.
Absolutely. Now, David, would you say that the generational trauma trend is gonna stop with you because most people will just continue with the vicious cycle without actually going, to either clean themselves up or, like you say, ask for help? But you seem to have, beaten the odds, and now you're championing positivity out there.
Another incredible question, Prosper, and it speaks to something that so many people, if not everyone, goes through, because all of our parents, all of our grandparents and ancestors will have experienced so many different challenges and unique traumas in their own ways. And I think without doing the requisite work on ourselves, and it could look different for different people, right? Perhaps it is seeing a psychologist, perhaps it is meditation or breath work or somatic healing, whatever it is, some form of therapy or inner work that really reminds us that we're not our past, and that we don't have to live by the programming of our parents and those who come before us is really important. Because I don't want to hand that down to my kids and to their kids. I don't want my kids to feel like they can't take a risk and bet on themselves and create something meaningful and build a business or a project or an NFP, whatever it might be, or engage in a passion project, because I felt like I couldn't. And I think it's important to be able to do the work required to undo that subconscious programming and that generational trauma that almost everyone, I would say, deals with.
I quite like that, because if you represent the pattern break, that whole spiraling won't perpetuate. And good on you for choosing yourself. And I can't wait to see what it is that you're gonna create. Now, you've used your own experiences with mental health, and you've actually gotten them to inspire you to give back, something which is very, very selfless. Somebody will be fetal position thinking, I'm the one going through all of this, I need to deal with my own stuff, and you're now giving back through personalized services that really help other people find and discover themselves. And obviously you're delivering tangible results out there. So just tell us a little bit about your brainchild, Linkmate. Is it Linkmate? And how it actually provides that emotional support, what actually inspired this creation of this product?
For sure, Prosper. So yeah, Linkmate came before the coaching that I'm doing now. And Linkmate was really inspired in many ways by that series of conversations that I had with Dad when I realized and found out that he had attempted to take his life. And it was initially, but also it brought us so much closer together, just being able to hold space for each other, and being able and feeling comfortable enough to share my own journey and challenges, struggling to find my feet in a workplace, and hearing about his own pain and suffering navigating through a divorce. Because I don't know what it's like to go through a divorce, but I certainly know what it's like to feel alone and anxious and depressed. And I think the fact that we could have those conversations meant that we, in many ways, we're practicing peer support with one another. We weren't trying to fix each other's problems, because I don't think we knew how to. We really just supported one another as peers do. And I realized in that moment that there's really something special and magical about this, because it made such a big difference to us and to our state of being at that point in time, more so than any medication that I was prescribed or any therapy that I had been through at that point. And I started trialing it out with friends and colleagues, and was vulnerable about my own challenges navigating my parents' divorce. And then I witnessed my friends who had been closed off and bottled up their emotions for so long actually open up and feel comfortable doing so. And it was because of that shared lived experience that it happened. And there's something really so powerful in two people bonding really over a shared lived experience and being vulnerable with one another. That's where I believe authentic connection happens. And so that inspired the creation of an app, which we launched to provide support throughout the community. And we partnered with universities to really bring this as a preventative tool so that people could connect with others who are trained in how to provide peer support, who knew what it was like to go through the same challenges that they were. Scaled it up, provided support across Australia and India, launched a workshop program teaching the fundamentals of peer support in the workplace, in university, and equipping leaders, I think, and employees alike with those soft skills of active listening, validating someone's challenges, asking open-ended questions, like stuff that's been around for ages, but is often forgotten or perhaps not well executed, which can make such a big difference to someone's sense of safety in the workplace, for instance, and really lead to high levels of trust, collaboration, productivity, and just a better culture overall. So unfortunately, last year, we experienced resourcing constraints, and it meant that we couldn't grow and take Linkmate to the next level and expand internationally. So we shut down, and the community is now being looked after by Beyond Blue. And since doing some soul searching, I think, and really taking the time out to process, the pride, but also the pain of going through that, I came to coaching, which is what I'm doing now, and is equally fulfilling.
Man, I'll tell you something. You created the spark that would then later on ignite to become something magnificent. And don't take that lightly. Yes, you might have wanted to expand internationally or beyond borders and things of that nature, but the fact that something got done, so many ideas die in incubation, so many ideas do not even see the day of light. So you went on and executed and created something that is now being used by bigger companies like Beyond Blue, which they saw something in you, and that hasn't been a failure, man. You've done amazing.
No, I appreciate that, Prosper. And yeah, no, I agree with you. Not a failure at all. Certainly, a success and a lot of lessons along the way as well. So I really appreciate you sharing that, brother. That does mean a lot to me.
Absolutely. You see, through all of this, the first thing you told me was you had imposter syndrome, you were overcoming self-doubt, and you had a lot of procrastination, but you shipped. You put something in the world that never existed. Now, maybe you might not have seen it that way, but there we are. And we're talking about something that you created. Now, maybe you can share with us a specific strategy or maybe a tip that our viewers can maybe apply to boost their own self-confidence and also the discipline that then gets them to put something out there, because we only get self-confidence based on the results that we can see that are tangible, that we have produced ourselves.
I couldn't agree more with you, Prosper, and I think, to your point, from what I've learned is you don't become confident by not doing anything. You become confident by doing the thing, right? And that gives you energy to do the thing and take it even further, which then produces the results and the impact, which in turn, can raise your level of confidence and self-assuredness, in what you're capable of doing. So I think, yeah, there's one thing. In fact, I'll share two things. One, which is, the scary, the plunge, the leap of faith, which absolutely must be conquered in order to be able to make those dreams or make that vision a reality, is biting the bullet, burning the boats, and actually taking a chance on yourself, and not trying to perfect whatever you're doing, but really just putting some low fidelity version of your idea together and getting it out there, right? And getting feedback on it, and really learning from the market and learning from the community to understand what they really want. And setting your ego aside and not trying to get married to what it could be or what it should be. Just really being vulnerable in many ways. So I think that's, like you said before, that in and of itself produces a really high level of confidence. What is another thing that I suggest my clients do, particularly those who might struggle with self-confidence or have a lot of self-doubt, is doing something what's called success. Every single achievement, accomplishment, anything that you've ever done that's created a sense of inner pride, admiration for yourself, right? And it could be, it could be getting a job, but it could also be making a friend laugh, or making them feel heard through their challenges. And there are no limits to what it can be. But once you take the time, 20, 30 minutes to really build this list, you have just such a stack of undeniable evidence of how amazing you are. And everyone guaranteed can list at least 10 things. And that's, being conservative. Everyone can do that. And, once they do, it really can remind them of how special they are. We often tend to focus on what's negative, right? And that screens and blocks out all of those amazing positive things that we do. But I think by really focusing on what is the positive, uplifting, empowering things that we have achieved, it reminds us, right, of what we're capable of doing, and can boost confidence as well.
Absolutely, I quite like that. You know what I call those little successes on the journey to success, your victory. I call them successories. All right, it's little
Love it.
accessories that you put together. If it's a shirt, you'd have cufflinks. All these little accessories. Even if you've got a car, you accessorize it. If you've got a house, you accessorize it, so that one little piece. It could be a sculpture there or a painting there or whatever it is, but it builds the whole. So many people just want to have the whole without noticing that, hey, had this picture or this backdrop or this microphone been strategically positioned where it is, we wouldn't have had such a good episode and things of that nature. So it's having a whole 360 vision around who you are, around what it is that you're doing, and everything else, that puts together that whole piece that then people get celebrated for, and I just wish a lot of people would watch this particular episode, because you're really bringing in the goods. Now, for those that might want to take it a step further and maybe work with you, who, first of all, benefits from your coaching services, and how do you actually then tailor your approach to suit their needs? Because I don't think everyone can suit particular ways or methodologies, because we're all each going through our own journeys.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you, Prosper. The people and scaling their business and start generating revenue. So you're absolutely right. Obviously, everyone is different, and they all have their own unique challenges and needs and goals. So every single journey starts with a strategy call, which is free, right? And in many ways, it is sort of a coaching session as well, which is just designed to understand more about where someone is at, what they're currently struggling with, where they want to go, and really helping them crystallize that picture before building a step-by-step roadmap to get there. And there are many different, tools and modalities and protocols that I walk them through based upon what they need. But the two main journeys that anyone could go down is getting the requisite skills strategically to move into a leadership position, covering things like networking, relationship building, managing people, communication, persuasive techniques, or starting a business of their own. Similarly, covering everything from problem, solution, ideation, all the way through to sales and marketing and building a team. But I think what I've learned from my own experience, Prosper, and everyone who I work with, is that 80% of the results that we experience and that we realize in our life is due to our psychological state, right? The state that we're in. And I boil that down to 4 key areas. One, which is self-talk. The second one is self-discipline. The third one is self-image. And the fourth one is vision. And the reason why I value those things so highly and why I make them a key focus of the coaching is because so many people, almost everyone who I speak to initially, is burning themselves out with so many different strategies and spinning the wheels, but not really getting anywhere. And more often than not, it's a product of one or more things from what I shared before. Maybe they tell themselves that they can't do it and they have negative self-talk, or they don't have the discipline required to do the tasks necessary to grow their business or position themselves for promotion, or maybe even just practice self-care and take time out for themselves. Another reason might be they don't see themselves as someone who is a successful business person, and they don't have that identity in their mind, which is probably the biggest and most important factor that has helped me go from being struggling, addicted, lost uni student to where I am now. And fourthly, maybe they just don't know where they're going, which in many cases people don't, and they just kind of might not have a clear vision mapped out. And so, they're doing a lot of work, but it's not really intelligently directed in any way. So the coaching itself is a blend of this mindset and strategy to be able to help people do the inner work and the outer work to be able to get the results they want.
Absolutely. It's sort of like a bridge that separates the haves and the have-nots, not exactly in the words of monetary aspect, but if you have that self-discipline, that self-knowledge, and that vision for yourself, you literally can be doing and have a life that you want. And those that don't have that will continuously be rolling around in circles and seemingly going nowhere, and literally winning the race to the bottom. And so many people don't quite realize that. So for our viewers who are lucky enough to get access to, first of all, your insights and everything else that you are dishing out today, and some that have been inspired by, first of all, your story and want to explore maybe your coaching services and learn a little bit more about your initiatives, what would be the best way that people can get a hold of you?
Thank you, Prosper. The easiest way would be to send me an email at david@dmt.care, C-A-R-E. Alternatively, my website is thedmtexperience.com.au. DMT is David Michael Titeu. And if possible, I'd be happy to share a link for where the viewers and listeners can access to easily book a free strategy call of their own, simply to see if if we're a good fit, and if I'm the kind of person that they feel would be the right one to support them in achieving their goals.
Absolutely. I will definitely be honored to receive that link, so that I can paste it in the show notes, and then we can definitely, hopefully, have people reaching out to you and talking to you. You see, being a marketing person myself, I noticed something about the way you do your marketing. I think you've employed what they call story or narrative-driven marketing as part of your strategies, and you're not afraid to tell your truth. So many people who come into this space, they want to maintain that facade of that hero, of that Elon Musk, Iron Man, I never fell type setup. Now, how can small to medium businesses actually leverage storytelling to connect with their audience on a deeper level? Because I feel like I've known you forever.
Prosper, the feeling is mutual, well and truly. And you've raised a really important point, because yes, whilst people engage with small to medium businesses for whatever it might be, what they're really engaging with is people, right? And I think every person has their own unique story, with pain and suffering and win and success. But there's vulnerability and there's power in sharing that story, because that's what people connect with, right? And that's what people can relate to. So the reason why I love storytelling and why narrative-driven marketing has been at the forefront of my brand is because it's my truth, right? Like my story, my lived experience is undisputed. It's what I've been through, and it also means that when I share it, people who connect with it will be the right people who I get to work with, because they resonate with it, and they feel like they're heard and understood when I share what I've been through. So I think it's really powerful to do that for small to medium businesses, to go beyond the brand and go beyond the logo, to show their faces and show their truth and their inner being. That is single-handedly the most profitable idea and tool that I've used, not just financially but emotionally and spiritually as well. Like, I'm so blessed with so many amazing relationships, and the prospect of meeting so many different change makers each and every day because of the way that I share this story and own my truth. So I back it all the way, and I definitely encourage listeners and business owners alike to lean into their story.
Absolutely. Somebody might be watching here just thinking, I don't think I need to go what's and all. It ain't all about that. I'll just go in and I'll showcase how good I am, being a mortgage broker or being a financial consultant. People would just want the cheapest rate or the best medicine that I can bring to the marketplace. Some people might not see that, but maybe you can share the impact of what storytelling has done for somebody that you've worked with, in light of maybe just a case study or something that somebody can latch on to.
No doubt. And one of my clients has similarly been through their own challenges and traumas, and has committed to using her experiences throughout life and throughout her relationships to build a venture that creates social impact, and supports young women in particular. And so I think one of the reasons why she initially engaged with me was because of the way that I shared my story, and the way that I leaned into my own vulnerabilities to be able to connect with those who had been through similar challenges. And that's exactly what she's doing. Right? And so I think for those mortgage brokers or financial consultants or whoever it might be that might be working in a technical role, of course, like the level of uh, quality technically is important, and the results that are created and the credibility that's built is absolutely paramount. But they're still working with people. And beyond all of that is a story in which people connect with. I believe when we do that effectively, we're not only creating partnerships or generating relationships with clients that solve one problem at any one time. It turns into a lasting relationship that transcends business and transcends like the professional side of things. And those are the relationships that matter. Those are the relationships that not only bring us a sense of joy and love and connection, but from a professional standpoint as well, it leads to referrals and word of mouth and other positive business building outcomes. So regardless of what industry you're working in, your story is important because it really has the power to build relationships far stronger than any other.
Absolutely. Now, you see, your personal story of opening up to your dad has actually influenced the way you approach, first of all, mental health advocacy and your whole professional life. And maybe had what happened not happened, most of the things that you're celebrating today, the little successories that you have now, may not have come to be. Now, if you would take maybe this opportunity, candidly speaking to the camera as if you were talking to your dad, what message would you have for the big fella?
I would say thank you. If you had been the dad that I wanted you to be, I wouldn't be able to be the man that I'm proud to be now. So no parent is perfect, and every parent has their flaws. And so I think it's really I'm really grateful for the way that I was raised, warts and all, as you say, Prosper, and with challenges and pains and suffering and trauma along the way. Because without it, it wouldn't have inspired me to do what I'm doing now. So I'm grateful.
Fantastic. And obviously, you have come to be a person of your own, a man of your own. If you were going to have kids or another generation that proceeds off of you, what would you want them to know?
That's a beautiful question. I would want them to know that no matter what path they choose to go down, they have my full unconditional love and support and encouragement to take risks and to bet on themselves, because that's the best investment that they could make.
There's going to be some really, really lucky individuals because, I mean, your life story and your experience have so much worth inside of it that I think you're doing us a disservice by not writing a book already, David.
It's on the way, Prosper. It's on the way.
We're going to hold you to that. And I appreciate your time today on the call, man.
I appreciate you too. Thank you for holding such a safe space, for asking such awesome questions that not only beneficial for our listeners, but really beneficial for me and my own reflection. So I love what you're doing with the show, and you really well and truly are empowering business owners and just people in the community to back themselves and to contribute and to build something of value and impact. So yeah, lots of love to you, brother. It's been a blast.
Well, I'm only following your footsteps because one of your missions is to help people rewrite their stories. And if I can have people on the show telling their story and really getting to understand who they've become and who they're becoming, not only will they actually just really stand strong in their own self-confidence, because with that self-confidence, not a lot of things can happen, and it all stems from having that self-belief. So I really appreciate you taking the time and playing with me today on the call. I think we had a lot of fun and we created something remarkable. And yeah, I can't wait for, like you said, you promised the book is going to come. We hope to see you again on the show, man.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again, Prosper.
Amazing. And there you have it, folks. A remarkable journey with David there, filled with insights, inspiration. And I think the call to action for all of us is to rewrite our stories. Okay. If you want to experience a little bit more transformative conversations like this, be sure to watch this episode again, because I think we just skimmed through, but there's so many golden nuggets there, because David, like I said, is a mental health advocate and social entrepreneur, and he's just devoted to creating solutions which promote holistic well-being. And be sure to subscribe for future episodes on the Online Prosperity Show, because you don't want to miss magic like this. Until next time, keep prospering, and bye for now.